Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jay Recher Podcast here on a Thursday. The club is going up on a Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Hope everybody out there is having a wonderful day, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. Make sure you're following me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe as well. Thank you, Dave Terry, rocking the Buccaneers hat today, showing some love to the Bucks, of course. All right. How about it right here? Janet Best, happy 55th birthday to me. Glad I get to spend it listening to you. All right, you guys ready? 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Janet. Happy birthday to you. The great 55. Double nickel. You have the Derek Brooks birthday. How great is that? Congratulations, Janet Best. And listen, I can't do this without all of you guys. So I love you all. Thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me to be able to have so many people like you're here every day. And I can't thank you enough, whether you were with me at WDAE till now or you just joined in. Man, this is what it's all about. So happy birthday, Janet. Thank you so much for spending your birthday with us here on the program. Ryan, Dolan, Benny, Dave, everybody. Dolan, you hit me up last night. You were right. I was at softball last night. I played for the Pendingos. I actually did pretty good, guys. And I'm okay today. Maybe you just start like moving around a little bit. That was my arm, my elbow, knee. 2 for 3 with a walk. Not bad. I grounded into a double play, and then I had to wear a tutu. There's this new rule on the Pendingos. If you make the last out of the inning, you have to wear a tutu in the field. So, do I have a picture? Yeah, I think I do. All right, hold on, guys. Hold on. I mean, I'm a glutton for punishment. I don't know. How do I bring this up? I'll just hold it up. Can you guys see that? I'm wearing a rainbow tutu there. It's kind of tough. There you go. Look at your boy wearing a tutu. I made the last out of the inning. There you go. See, that's the new rule. I was like, damn, if I would have known this rule, I definitely wouldn't have came back to the Pendingos. But yeah, I made the last out of the inning, so I had to wear a tutu out in the field. But one of our guys, Josh, I think he made the last out in the last 3 innings. So he just wore it continuously at the last 3 innings of the game. It was so funny, but it was great to be back out there with the guys. I feel okay. We'll see how tomorrow goes. My ankle's still a little jacked up. Of course, I have problems with my elbow and my shoulder. I don't know if they'll ever get fixed, but I'm back at it. But yeah, a tutu if you make the last out. Everybody, it's so funny. Everybody, when they get 2 outs, they were like, oh my gosh, you can't make the last out. Nobody wants to wear the rainbow tutu. So some really, really good stuff there. Again, follow me on social media at Jay Recher, right? Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Trying to get those subscribers up higher and higher and higher. Got to get to 5,000, like my nephew says. I'm trying to get to 1,500 and 2,000. We're playing the slow game here as well. Great show, as always, for you today on the program. Greg Auman's going to join us at 12:30. From Fox Sports. And Greg, he joins us once a month. He dives into a little bit of everything when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not many people out there know this team better than Greg. So love that he's going to be able to join us on the program today. And for the first time on the Jay Recher Podcast at 1 o'clock today, Aaron Jacobson, co-host of the Pat and Aaron Show on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620, will be joining us at 1 o'clock today to talk some New York Knicks basketball, see if they can win tonight and prolong this series. And also to talk some Rays baseball, because the Rays getting back to their winning ways yesterday with a nice win over the Twins. We're going to get to that here in a bit. because there was something I wasn't too thrilled with watching that game yesterday. So let's see. Yeah, so Aaron and Greg are going to join us on the program tomorrow. We'll have Jordan Yost joining us. He won the Saladino Award for top player in Hillsborough County, and also got some other irons in the fire to see what we got going on. UT softball, unfortunately, lost yesterday, 3-0 to UT Tyler, so their season comes to an end. But shout out to Coach Cantor, Alexa Russo, and everybody involved. It's a tough way to go out. UT Tyler is legit. Defending national champions. This was a team that, they were, I think, 61-5 going into the game yesterday. Incredible, but nothing to be ashamed of if you're the UT softball team. First time ever making it to the national championships, and they get all the way to the championship game. We're so proud of those ladies. And now we're hoping that the guys who left early this morning for Cary, North Carolina, can do the job. The first game is coming up, so we'll be supporting them. If you missed my interview with Sammy Militello, that was on the program earlier this week. So that is up on the YouTube channel. It's another reason why you want to subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so you guys know when we go live here on the program. And man, we just got a lot more things in the works. If you missed it yesterday, I announced that I will be coaching again with Hit Factory this summer. So we'll be traveling to Hoover, Alabama, and we'll be going to South Carolina and North Carolina. And of course, you guys know in the summer, my schedule gets a little bit, we slow it down a little bit. Same thing I did with WDAE, where I would take a couple weeks off. I'm going to do that same thing here with the program. Just, go see the family, right? And we go camping every year. So we're going to do that in July as well. So yeah, pretty much for June, there'll be a couple of days. If I'm, out at the field, I won't be on air, but pretty much every single day. And then July will be the slower month. And then August, September, and then just the rest of the year is crazy. You know how that rolls. It is it never stops when it comes to sports here in the Tampa Bay area and beyond. Okay. Also, we'll talk some Florida Panthers, what's going on there, and also why the NFL is really setting up their players to fail by having voluntary OTAs. We're going to talk about that after after the chat with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. Benny, you got me because you put Aaron Jacobson and Aaron Rodgers. If you missed our chat yesterday on the Beckles and Recher podcast, very, very intense conversation that we had about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and everything that's going on there, and also about Hassan Reddick. That's the great thing about, working with Ian. This is a guy that, him and I, we don't always have to agree on a lot of things, but we don't agree on everything. And we can have spirited discussions and not make it personal. And that's what I love about it. It's not like that. You can't do that with everybody. But Ian and I just come out of the, other side, better for it. And it's good to be able to have those type of conversations. There's too many times now in life where you have a difference of opinion with somebody and it's like, screw that guy and I don't care. And you got to be able to kind of break things down. There's a lot of shades of gray. Everything's not so black and white. So to be able to have those difficult conversations, I hope you guys appreciate that. We got going a little bit late yesterday, but pretty much every Wednesday between 3 and 4 o'clock, you'll see the Beckles and Recher podcast live from the Dignitary Cafe. Go check those guys out. 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Go get you some kava, get you some kratom, and tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast. All right, let's talk a little Rays baseball here before we talk some hockey and, of course, some basketball. What happened last night? Both 3-1 series. Kaput, Ova, Rover. Real quick, got to mention this. USF, Florida, 4:15. The time was just announced. September 6th, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, USF and Florida up in Gainesville. 4:15 kick. There we go. I cannot wait for USF football. Cannot wait. All right. So, love what I saw from the Rays yesterday, and they're really starting to go about this in the right way. If you guys been listening to me, I'm not going to sit here and spew the company line and say the same old shit that everybody else is saying, right? What did I want to see? I wanted to see the big guys step up, and I want to get contributions from a little bit of everybody, right? And you saw that yesterday. Brandon Lau with the home run. He has been really, really good for this team, and good for him. He's such a great guy. He's streaky. At times he has some health issues, but man, last year and now this year, 11th home run of the season. You got to like what you've seen from Brandon Lau. And then Junior Caminero getting that ball in the air. I'm more of a line drive guy, right? But for a guy like that, you expect some power numbers. And that's what you saw yesterday. Love that. Jonathan Aranda with an RBI single. He's been fantastic. I think, again, he's the all-star for this team. And the one dude that when you're talking about the Rays, and especially when you're talking about the starting staff, he seems to be the guy every single year that doesn't get enough credit, doesn't get enough, hey, this guy is legit. And it's Drew Rasmussen. And he pitches the way that you want your guys to throw. You want a guy that's going to make sure that, yeah, you're going to get your strikeouts, but a guy that's not going to walk anybody. Just one walk yesterday, one hit given up in 6 innings. His record now is 4-4 with a 2.33 ERA, and he just continuously goes out there and gives the Rays a chance to win. And if you've watched this show before, you know what my favorite statistic is in baseball, because for all the stuff about, all these new analytics and these new things and all these numbers that you really have to describe to people, and half of them are like, I don't know what the hell that means. Or these people just besmirching, batting average is overrated and home runs and runs and blah, blah, blah. To me, it's whip. If you've watched the show, how much I love the whip category. It's simple. Walks plus hits per innings pitched. That's it. Because if you can limit traffic on the bases, you have a better chance of keeping runs off the scoreboard. So earned run average, yeah, okay. But if you give up some, a couple of hits and then a run scores on an error, you are partially at fault of that. So I think that's, I don't know. I don't hate ERA as much as other people do, but I love the whip category. I do. And if you're right around 1, you're a beast. Career for Drew Rasmussen, 1.06. Phenomenal. His whip this year, it's under 1, 0.93. Amazing. 11 starts this year, 58 innings pitched. So he's giving you a chance to win. You can't say enough good things about Drew Rasmussen at 29 years old. He's a guy that, again, he doesn't get nearly enough of the praise that he should get. And when you're looking at the whip, I'm looking at the entire teams. And you got, these are the guys that are ahead of him. Okay. Nathan Eovaldi, 0.81. Joe Ryan, who we saw the other day, 0.83. Tari Skubal, the best pitcher in baseball for my money, 0.84. Zach Wheeler, 0.88. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 0.91. Paul Skeens and Hunter Brown, 0.92. And here's who he's tied with at 0.93. Brian Wu in Seattle and Max Fried, who's 7-0 with a 1.29 ERA. I said Tari Skubal was the best, but it's hard to go against Zach Fried. Max Fried, 7-0 with a 1.29 ERA. My God. Drew Rasmussen, God bless you, man. And he just goes out there and does his thing. He throws strikes. And to be fair, Zach Littell, a 1.08 whip. So he's, doing what he can. But I love what I've seen from Drew Rasmussen. This is a guy that just goes out there and does his job without much of the fanfare. And you look at the Rays, all right, where are we at now? Okay, we're in a position to let's make sure that we can build off of this momentum. They're in Houston to take on the Astros. 8:10 start tonight and tomorrow, and then 4:10 on Saturday, 2:10 on Sunday. And we know what happened when we saw the Rays play them last week. This isn't the same Houston Astros team, but still not an easy place to play. We know that they know how to play in that ballpark. You just got to make sure, if you're the Rays, you're doing the little things. When they lost that game, we broke it down, right? Error by Lau, right? The inability to beat out a ground ball from Junior Caminero, right? The double steal that didn't work. Like, you got to do those little things. And if you can, you'll be in good shape. Now, the Rays are 1 game over 500, which you'll love to see. They're 7 games back of the Yankees. This might just be that year for the Yankees where you just don't worry about them. Just focus on playing good baseball, get a wild card, and get in there. The Yankees' run differential is 113. They're just blistering the baseball with 305 runs scored. The Rays are 7-3 in their last 10 games. And I think when you look at the Rays compared to some of the other teams, just in their division, they're so well equipped to not go on long losing streaks. And you can look at the 2 teams at the bottom of the division right now, where the Red Sox are on a 5-game losing streak. The Orioles are on a 2-game losing streak, but they're also 19-36. I told you guys before the season, and I was going to mention this, but I didn't get to it that day when I was going to give my predictions. But I had the Orioles missing the playoffs and coming in 4th. I think I had, maybe I had them in 5th, but I definitely had Baltimore losing and not being a team that was making the playoffs. You can't tell me that Zach Eflin, who was going to be the 4th starter before all those injuries a couple of years ago, is going to be your ace going into the season, and you're going to go against teams in your division that have Garrett Crochet, right? and Walker Buehler and some of those guys with the Red Sox, when the Blue Jays are throwing guys like Jose Barrios out there and Bassett, right? Like Gossman, good pitchers. When you have the Rays throwing out all of their guys with Boz and McClanahan and Bradley, and obviously McClanahan going into the season, Drew Rasmussen, right? And the Yankees with Max Fried and Rodon. And like, so how do you think that you're going to compete that way? Very lazy. And it cost Brennan Hyde his job, and he knew it was going. I don't know why it's his fault. It should have been the general manager and the owner's fault. But there's one thing about this Rays team, I got to be honest with you, that's really bugging me, and it has bugged me. And I was going to talk about this a couple of weeks ago when I think it was the day that Evan Longoria got inducted, or they said he was going to be going into the Hall of Fame, or he was going to retire as a member of the Rays. But the one thing that's really bugging me about this Rays team is the play of Yandy Diaz. I don't really understand what's going on with Yandy. And people are going to give me the numbers. Well, he's doing better here and he's got better here. Like, I get it. Okay, that's fine. He's batting .233. And it's not just the numbers, right? And now so I like Josh Lowe batting in the leadoff spot because I've done this before when I've coaching. Sometimes you want to put guys in the leadoff spot that you want to prevent them from doing too much. So my buddy Frankie, if you ever need a mechanic, go over to Pete's Automotive there on Columbus and go tell him that Jay Recher sent you. But I used to put Frankie because at times when he was a hitter, he tried to do too much, and it was a lot. It was a lot. So when I put him in the leadoff spot, he focused on hitting line drives, and he was fantastic. Did such a great job, and he's such a good player. And I love that the Rays are doing that same thing with Josh Lowe, kind of putting him in that leadoff spot and giving him just, minimizing his swing. Don't try to do too much. Just put the ball in play. He's batting .298. He was 2 for 4 yesterday. I love him being aggressive at the top of the lineup. I just don't like what I've seen from Yandy Diaz. Again, he's batting .233. This is a guy that's a lifetime .284 hitter. His on-base percentage career, .367. .279 this year. His OPS is 130 points lower at .662 than it is lifetime at .796. In his last 15 games, Yandy is 11 for 62 with a 177 average. He's walked twice and struck out 12 times. It's not good enough. This is a guy that gets on base at a high clip, and a guy when he's going well, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. But for Yandy, this is a guy that I don't know if the ballpark's getting in his head or what, but you got to think about going the other way. And I'm seeing swings from Yandy Diaz that I saw from Randy Arozarena, right? You saw that with Randy Arozarena on changeups and breaking balls away where he would just flail at it. How many flailing swings have you seen from Yandy Diaz over the years? Not many, because he is a guy that lets the ball get deep, right? And he goes the other way with the pitch, right? Just in the last week, we've seen Yandy Diaz just kind of throwing his bat at the ball, just such a frail attempt at putting the ball in play. I can't tell you how demoralizing that is for a team to watch one of your best hitters, one of the guys that you rely on to put together good at-bats. Listen, it's a game of failure. You succeed 3 out of 10 times, you're the best in the game. You expect guys like Yandy Diaz to give you a good AB, and he's not even doing that. Just flailing with just such a terrible effort. We know he's not going to run hard out of the box. So you kind of just, certain guys you expect it from, right? You don't expect the Jose Molinas, Yandy Diaz, like some of these bigger guys to, run hard out of the box. And Kevin Cash said at the major league level, those guys are going to make the play 99% of the time. So he's okay with guys kind of pulling up a little bit. But with that being said, the optics aren't good. And it's not great when you have guys like Chandler Simpson and Cameron Meisner. That's the funny thing about sports. And we have the same conversation about OTAs, and we'll have that same conversation about running hard down the line, is you have guys that like Chandler Simpson, like Meisner, like Magnum, like all of these guys that are Caballero, guys that are trying to stay in the lineup, guys that are trying to stay on the team and not get sent down to AAA. They're going to run hard every single time. down the line, whether it's a routine chopper to short or whether it's a bang play to a second baseman behind the bag at second base. But there's just that natural, like, when you as a team, as a fan base, as a coaching staff, when you watch a guy and you're giving him grace after grace and excuse after excuse, like, you expect him to be able to perform. He's not performing. He was in a funk to start the year last year, and he's in a funk again here. And it's got to be better because the Rays, listen, a lot of other players in his spot would have got moved on because you have Jonathan Aranda. Listen, if somebody would have said that they moved on from Yandy Diaz in the offseason, you may have been mad, but would you have been surprised? No. You have Jonathan Aranda there. You have Xavier Isaac and Trey Morgan in the pipeline. Yes, you need guys that can swing it. I understand that. But, I mean, if he's not swinging it, then what is he giving you? He's not giving you anything in the field. He's not giving you anything on the base pass. Like, what's the deal? Too many times, and we had this conversation with our guy, who was it? I'm sorry, guys. I'm messing up the screen here. It's a little funky. I'm trying to clean the screen off so you guys can see no smudges. We're having this conversation with Evan Klosky, right? A couple weeks ago. He said that the Rays stay too far with guys. They hang on to guys too long. I'm not saying they should get rid of Yandy, but there's times where you need to be able to have a conversation with a guy and say, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. You got to be better. You have to be better. I don't know. If he snaps out of the funk, good. If he snaps out of the funk, that's a good thing. But what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't snap out of the funk? You got other guys coming up. You got other guys coming up on the team that are going to be able to contribute in a big way. I don't know, man. I do not know. Hold on. I'm going to look up something for you guys real quick. So I was hanging out, speaking of softball last night, hanging out with my guy. Onyx Concepcion. Is that the guy? My guy, Will? Shout out to my guy, Will Hawkins. One of the best umpires here in the Tampa Bay area. Was it Concepcion? Onyx Concepcion? That could have been the guy. Trying to figure out the shortstop that played with Frank White for the Royals back in the day. It's a good one, buddy. Shout out to, again, David Terry. If he doesn't, his price go down. Yeah, you're right, man. You're right. And I don't know if is that the right move? Is the right move to move on from Yandy Diaz? I don't think so. But he's got to pick it up. That's the thing. We get too much of that in sports, and I'm not that guy. I don't like calling for trades or calling for guys to get fired and things like that. But nobody's safe from criticism. Nobody's safe from like, oh, well, you can't get criticized because you've done this. You sure as hell can. Just because you've played well, coached well, done a great job in the front office doesn't mean that you don't get scrutinized when things go wrong and when you make poor decisions. It doesn't mean that you forget about things. We don't forget about Yandy winning a batting title and what he's been able to do for this team. But, like, you got to call a spade a spade. It's what have you done late for me? What have you done for me lately? Game, sport, life. You got to be better. All right, before we get to our guy Greg Auman at 12:30, the Florida Panthers win last night. What a comeback. They're down 2-0. They scored 2 goals in 30 seconds to beat the Carolina Hurricanes to advance to their third straight Stanley Cup final. They beat the Vegas Golden Knights a couple of years ago, or they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights a couple of years ago in 5 games before beating the Edmonton Oilers last year in 7. And now they're waiting for Edmonton. Edmonton, what's going on over there? And it just sucks that a guy like Zach Hyman's not going to be in there. But they got to take care of business first against Dallas. But watching that game last night, and shout out to the Thunder and our guy Robert Cochran there in OKC that's always tuning in. But and DEBR, Tampa fans got to stop bitching about Florida. Yes, they're mean, tough, and even dirty, but that's why they're in the final. We need more grit and playoff style hockey in our game. Yeah, I mean, they got to, I think it's partially that, but I also think their best players have to step up too. Like, regardless of as far as stepping up, you're not winning anything with Nikita Kucherov not scoring goals in 15 games. And your injuries hit at the worst possible time. Oliver Bjorkstrand was supposed to help the problems on the power play, and he did not. And also, let's not forget, their power play for the Lightning is good, but watch the Florida Panthers power play. There's always movement. You see a guy like Aaron Ekblad, who's the lone defenseman on that power play. And people were wondering, are you going to stay with Seth Jones there when Aaron Ekblad came back? And no, they go back to Aaron Ekblad, and you see why. And you saw it in that game that the Lightning were ahead, and the Panthers were able to come back and rescue that victory from the jaws of defeat there in South Florida. He's always moving. There's always movement. You don't really see that at all when it comes to like Victor Hedman. You have to see more movement, I think, on the power play going forward. For all the talk about Jeff Blashill, like Jeff Halpern's the guy that works on the power play. That's what needs to improve. It needs to improve so that you're able to score against the better PKs in the game. It's not the only thing. I think the Lightning need more than what people are saying as far as like, oh, just a little bit here, a little bit there. Listen, I mean, Carolina's saying the same things, and I hated what I heard from Rod Brindamore last night. Oh, we're not giving enough credit to the Florida Panthers, and everybody's acting like it's all negative. Like, bro, if you don't feel the heat right now, if you don't feel like you're bashing your head against the wall, I don't understand. Like, you had a good team. You went to the Eastern Conference Final again. Everybody out there every year tells me how great Carolina is, but they're not built for the postseason. They're not built to beat the Lightning a couple of years ago. They're not built to beat the Rangers a couple of years ago. They're not built to beat this Florida Panthers team. You don't have enough top-end talent. You don't have a goalie that's good enough to go against these other goaltenders. And you get found out by the top teams in the game. That's not your goal. That's not your goal. Your goal should be to win the whole thing. I hate hearing stuff like that. I hate like this, your goal should be to win the whole thing. You're not the Montreal Canadiens where it's like, oh, we're happy to be here, right? I don't know. It's not just grit. The max effort 100% of the time in every area of the ice. This is what has the Panthers looking so unstoppable. The physicality is just, I understand, Stash, but like, it's not because the Lightning aren't playing hard. They're playing hard, but they're not playing smart, and they're just not good enough. People don't want to hear that. And people think like, oh, we're close. We have all these things. They're not. They're not good enough. I know everybody is looking at this through blue-colored glasses. They're not good enough to beat the Florida Panthers. Their third line their bottom six guys did not match up with the bottom six guys of Florida. We talk so much about Gore, Goodrow, and Coleman and how they were the kind of straw that stirs the drink. They started every single period for John Cooper. Well, that's what the freaking Panthers got now. They brought in Brad Marchand. Anybody could have had that guy. They brought him in to go with Luosterainen and Anton Lundell, and those are the guys that are scoring a bunch of goals. They're going out there and taking some of the heavy minutes off of Sasha Barkov and Reinhart and guys like that. So for all this talk about like grit and everything and the physicality, I understand that. But the Lightning and the Hurricanes are not as talented as the Florida Panthers. And I know that's a sobering reality, and people don't want to hear that. And you're not going to hear that from the coaching staff ever. The only guy you heard it from was Andrei Vasilevsky. And again, I thought it was weird that everybody always wants, they're so close. And I don't think so. You lost in 5 games again in the first round of the playoffs. Everybody, they would have won this. They would have done this. How do you know? You don't know. Could the Lightning have lost to the Maple Leafs? Maybe. Last time they played in the playoffs, they did lose. No sympathy. I have no sympathy for teams that say things about. I don't get it. It's just excuse after excuse after excuse. And I know you're saying about Tkachuk and the LTIR. That's the rules, man. I don't care what is. The Lightning did that too. The Blackhawks did that too. You still got to go out there and win. There's other teams that operate the same way and they don't make it. You still have to be able to go out there and win. But the thing I didn't like is that Paul Maurice goes out there and he has now orchestrated this whole thing that the coaches don't go on the handshake line. And I just think it's kind of weird that that's the hill that he's like willing to die on, that it's very important for the players to just shake hands with the players. Who said that? Like, is that did a player, like if a player goes to Paul Maurice and says that, then I'm cool with it. But the fact that Paul Maurice is the guy that's saying that, and he just went against, Craig Berube and Rod Brindamore, 2 guys that played in the playoffs. Like, I find it weird. And listen, if you've listened to me on the show, I am a huge Paul Maurice fan, right? I think he's just awesome, right? but like he never played in the NHL. So like, how does he get to be the guy to make this decision? I don't understand that, right? You're telling Craig Berube and you're telling Rob Brindamore, like, hey, this is what we should do. Like, I actually like when the players go and shake hands with the coach. I think one of the coolest things years ago when the Lightning beat the Montreal Canadiens was when John Cooper went to a guy like Carey Price and he showed him love, because Montreal was playing above their skis the entire postseason. And the biggest reason why is because of number 31, the future first ballot Hall of Famer, Carey Price. Unbelievable. That guy was fantastic. And the love and the adoration that John Cooper showed for Carey Price, like, you're not going to get that now, because all you're going to do is have those guys shake hands with the players and then move on. I just find it very weird that Paul Maurice, and again, no disrespect to him as a coach, but he's the guy that is now saying that the coaches shouldn't be shaking hands with players on the line. There's 50 guys in suits. No, there's not. It's you and your 3 or 4 assistants. These players go into, and a lot of assistants are former players that have coached these guys and maybe even played with some of them. It's just a weird thing. Like, why are we eliminating that? You're not making the handshake any better, I think, by having 4 or 5 less people there that also put a lot of, effort and energy into winning these series. I don't know. I just thought it was weird. All right, let's bring him in. Let's talk some Buccaneer football. We'll do it with our pal Greg Auman from Fox Sports. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. Hope you're doing well.
I am. What do you think about that? Because you're a guy that, I don't know if you know the whole story about Paul Maurice, because we don't see this. And I'm thinking about, I was thinking about it last night of, we don't see this. The only thing we see with football is the coaches go across the field and they shake hands, right?
Right.
In basketball, you have the coaches maybe shake hands. Like, basketball's gotten really funky with how they do their post-game stuff. And in baseball, you don't have it, but in college you do. And college does it where the teams will shake hands and then the coaches will shake hands. And sometimes they'll mix and mingle. But hockey, it's one of the greatest traditions in all sports, where after they beat the living crap out of each other, they line up at center ice and, they shake hands. And then for years, the coaches have been there as well. And now Paul Maurice is kind of going out and saying, like, I don't think the coaches should be part of the line. And he didn't play in the NHL. So it's kind of weird for him to tell 2 guys that actually played in Stanley Cup Finals, and Craig Berube and Rob Brindamore, hey, let's not do this. Because, I just mentioned before you came on, I thought one of the best moments when the Lightning played the Canadiens, when the Lightning were clearly the better team, was John Cooper and the coaching staff going to Carey Price of Montreal going, dude, you are the freaking man. That was a really nice moment for Carey Price and the Canadiens. And now we're not having that. What do you think about that situation?
No, I mean, I'm all for sportsmanship, man. It's like to see, especially like Stanley Cup playoffs, when, like you said, when 2 teams have beat the tar out of each other for 2 weeks, and then you have to just collect yourself and be like, all right, congrats, man. You're the better team. Best of luck to you moving forward, that kind of thing. I mean, it's like I see it now as a dad, and it's like youth sports. It's like even if you're mad at somebody, even if you lost in a way you didn't want to lose, you got to line up, you got to shake hands. Good game, good game, good game. And that's, I think, if they see that on the ice from the most hostile that sports get, that hey, you can stop, reset, and congratulate your opponent. That's kind of what it's about. So again, I don't see a need to leave anybody out of that. Like you said, these coaches, if anything, are more well connected than the players sometimes. So it's not, like you said, it's not 50. It's a small bench.
Yeah, it's like 50 guys. I'm like, who's on your handshake line? Right? I was like, I've seen a lot of these lines. Like, I've never seen 50 coaches on there. What kind of
guy has to come down for the press box?
Yeah, right. I can imagine like all of our PR guys like, oh, wait, Brian Griezmann's got to get in the line. Oh, wait, football. Here comes Nelson Luis. He's got to get in there.
Really good notes this week, man. I mean, some of the things you pointed out there.
Yeah, Mike Pahanik's got to run down. Like, they got enough things going on. They're not going on that line. Those guys do such a great job. First, we see. I want to get your opinion on this before we get into kind of the minutia of OTAs, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on and give my opinion on the show. I think voluntary OTAs is like it's such a trap. It really is. I don't know why we have them in the NFL, Greg, because like all you're doing is setting up your players to look bad, right? Why have anything voluntary? Because now you get in a point where that you're causing a division that doesn't need to be there. And Mike Florio put something out of like Hassan Reddick skips OTAs. No mention of Evans and Godwin and all the other guys that didn't make it. And you're seeing that around the league, right? Where, Stephon Diggs isn't there and he's partying on a boat. Now, the optics aren't great for that, but he's also a veteran in this league. And if it's voluntary, I mean, yeah, you want your young guys to be there. You want your second-year quarterback and Drake May to be there. But if Stephon Diggs isn't be there, even though it would be better if he was, it's voluntary. So I think it's just like one of those things. Do you think they'll ever change that? Because it's just a weird thing. You're setting up the players to, I don't want to say fail, but you're setting them to look bad.
Yeah, it's one of those where, I mean, they've collectively bargained this. So the players chose it. And it's one of those where, again, I think there definitely was a push to limit the actual obligations in the offseason, how often you have to be on site, how often you have to be practicing. And it's kind of, I mean, I always feel like there's some people where it makes a lot of sense for. Again, Mike Evans. Mike generally hasn't been an OTA guy. I think he's there, he's around. You'll see, I mean, we only see 2 out of 8 OTAs. So it's kind of like, if they're not there the days we're there, ooh, big rush. But like today, he might be there today for all we know. And we wouldn't know it. Like they put out a photo gallery, like 50 pictures. And I'm like scanning through. Who's that in the background? Is that? I think that's somebody. So it's not a huge thing. Again, like Hassan Reddick is probably a good example. And that Rick Stroud and I were talking beforehand. Like, hey, you think Reddick shows for this? Because it's one of those where he doesn't have to. Again, he's been in the league for ages. Tons of double-digit sack seasons. We know who he is. We know what he needs to get ready. But at the same time, you're kind of establishing yourself a new team.
Right.
And he didn't necessarily do a real good job of that last time he was with a new team. Different situation in terms of contract. But again, especially if you're a team like the Bucs, who signed a pass rusher last year, who didn't show and then never showed.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Hassan Reddick, I don't want to remind people of Randy Gregory. Okay.
Right.
And again, there's really only 2 guys that held out last year, and that's who they are. And it's just a weird thing where the Bucs essentially replaced one guy who never showed up with a better guy who also didn't show up last year. So again, when we talked to Hassan when he signed, said all the right things, was very honest about wanting to reestablish himself, motivated to show what he can do. I think he's been around the building, so it's not like it's not like he signed, got his check, and is going to stop back in July or something. He's been around. OTAs is only 8 days, so June 10th, mandatory minicamp, there's every reason to think he's going to be there as he should. So, like I said, it's that weird thing. And you feel bad because like you're writing it. And even if you frame it as these are voluntary, and then you're like, also, these guys aren't here. And again, nobody cares. Levante's in year 13, 14 now. He doesn't need to be there. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's the same defense. It's the same people around him for the most part. But there's definitely that mindset where it's like, hey, you're getting paid a lot of money. You want to do everything you can to make sure you're as ready as possible, as on the same page. So, we write a lot about the defense and chemistry and meetings and the rapport in the secondary, and that's good. So you see Jamel Dean is there, okay? Zion McCullum is there. Antoine Winslow is there. Everybody in the secondary is there. And that's significant to me because if you're really serious about trying to improve the chemistry and the communications, you want to get as much chance to do that as you can. So, again, it's not always a negative thing. I think there's lots of people that don't have to be there and are there. Or Baker Mayfield. Again, Baker Mayfield doesn't have to be there. And he's there like he is everywhere. I mean, it means a lot to him to be there. He has a new offense. He has some new assistants he's working with. I'm sorry, not a completely new offense, but a new coordinator. And so I think he recognizes, all right, it's a good thing for me to be there on these days. He's going to take plenty of time off in this offseason, this spring, this summer, but those are important days for him to be there, be around the team, make sure anybody who's new knows who he is, knows the standard he's setting. So,
and you mentioned Baker Mayfield. Has this, like, I don't think this has gone any better, right? Like, I don't think this could have been any better, right? Baker Mayfield. Yeah. I was talking to Ian about this the other day. I was like, just going through the whole thing with Baker, the way he's assimilated himself into the community, the way he's, with his wife and his kid and the foundation, and just like the way he's played on the field, not just the winning and not just winning the divisions, but how he's played and how he's just endeared himself to the fan base. Like, there were a lot of question marks going in, wondering like if it's going to be him, is it going to be Kyle Trask? Like, the years after Brady, we were wondering, right? Now people don't talk about that transition anymore. Like, Baker's, He's a Tampa guy now. He's walking Morgan Wallen out to the stage on Ray J. Like this couldn't have gone any better, right? So far.
Yeah. It was neat for him too. And I mean, obviously Baker had a year that was kind of wandering around the NFL for a while, where you go to Carolina, it didn't work out. You go to the Rams, it's a fun couple of weeks, but it's not a long-term thing. So I think he was at that point where, like, one more stop that doesn't work, you're probably not going to get another shot where you're presumed to be a starter. Right. And I think to his credit, he recognized that and has done all the right things to make this team his and make this city his. And Mike Evans did that, did an interview with Kevin Hart, the comedian.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was really cool. And he's talking about how, like, it takes a confident guy to take over a team from Tom Brady. Right. No matter who you are. But that's kind of who Baker is. And to come in, and then if you look, it was like we were just looking up passing stats for the last 4 years. Okay. And like in the NFL, Bucs have 138 touchdown passes in the last 4 years, second most in the NFL. And it's neat because it's 2 years of Brady and 2 years of Baker. And there's 69 touchdown passes with Brady and 69 with Baker. There's no drop off at all. And again, Brady's last year wasn't necessarily a model for what you want to be, but the idea that you lost Brady and you lost all the vets who were with him and you took all the dead cap and all that kind of stuff and didn't stop winning division titles in that rebuild or in that, transition afterwards. Yeah. Like you said, in terms of going about as well as you can imagine. Yes. And then, I mean, even to lock up Baker and now it's a huge raise, right? To go from whatever, $7 million that first year to $35 million a year now. That's still a really good deal. There's lots of worse quarterbacks that needed a lot more money to stay with their teams. And I think if Baker has another year close to what last year was, he'll get another deal with a higher level of pay. But I think that's also been good in that he, a little like Brady, probably didn't need to take every dollar he could get if it meant having people around him and having Mike back and having Godwin back and having all the key supporting cast around him. Somebody just did one of our guys at Fox, Dave Hellman, just did like best supporting cast in the NFL. Like who is surrounded, what quarterbacks are surrounded by the best. And the Bucs are number 5 in that, which is really strong. I mean, that's not just Godwin and Evans and the other receivers and Bucky. That's the offensive line too, and Wirfs and Gedeke and all the other types there. So I thought that was neat. And that, like, I you'll see these rankings and you do in your head, like, gosh, I wonder where you think they have Tampa at. I was like, probably top 10, right? 5, pretty strong.
Yeah, it is. And I saw another ranking the other day where the Bucs were at like 14. I'm just like, what are we talking about here?
It was one of those like numeric. Yeah, I think that was,
just like, for some of one of the stats it was. And I was like, come on, man. What was the biggest thing that stood out to you? I know you only get out there for 2 of the days there in voluntary OTAs, but the one day that you were out there this past Tuesday, what was the one thing that kind of jumped out to you above the rest?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to really like, wow, see that kind of thing. There's not a ton of, even when you see like 11 on 11, it's hard to read too much. So no, Servacio Dennis had probably the best play that we saw. I mean, just had a pass across the middle and kind of just absolutely reached out, full extension, made a really athletic play, and was able to run with it and what would have been, pick 6 or a big return. And that stood out. I mean, and just that we didn't know where Voss would be physically. It'd be out there. Is he full go?
They're putting a lot of stock on him, aren't they? Like they're as far as not addressing it so much in the draft and not bringing in a guy like, and I know they brought in Walker, but not bringing in like a primo, like this is going to be our every guy, every down off ball linebacker. Like they're putting a lot of stock into Servacio Dennis, aren't they?
Right. And honestly, all the only real risk involved in that to me is the injury risk.
Right.
I think they know if he's healthy, they really like what he does in terms of speed, in terms of smarts, having people on the right places around him. He's just been hurt. I mean, that's what his first 2 years have been injuries. And I think they're just hopeful that the shoulder's right now. Like you said, to me, that the single best endorsement you could give somebody is to ignore their position. And again, I don't want to trivialize.
I got what you mean. Yeah.
Walker's a good player. He's probably a Brit level adjacent player, maybe a little bit better, a little faster. But the fact that you didn't, I think everybody and their brother thought they were going to take a linebacker in the first 2 rounds, and they didn't. And there's all these, 28-year-old 100 tackle vets available in free agency, and they really didn't go out there and get anybody. And I think you do that because you're confident that if he's healthy, he's a really good player next to Levante David. And they probably need to address linebacker again a year from now, just trusting that this might be Levante's last year. You probably at least think as a default this is his last year. Maybe he comes back. But no, I think he's somebody they believe in Safety is the same way. Safety, they really haven't done anything at safety, and I think that speaks well to what they think Tyke Smith can do there.
Yeah, and I was wondering about that spot. Somebody was asking me about that's probably one of the more popular questions that I get is, is Shiloh going to make this team? And, he seems to have made a great first impression when he went out there the day, and safety is a spot, right? Not addressed. You said Tyke, but still we don't know, right? Like, can Shiloh make the team as a safety, as a backup, as a special teams guy? I think that spot, ideally, would you say that they would like Tyke? Like, if they had their druthers week one and everything that they would want, what would the secondary look like, alongside Antoine Whitefield Jr. as the safety?
Right. I think if you had your druthers right now in a dream scenario, you would have Winfield and Tyke at safety. You'd probably have, I'm guessing, Parrish at nickel right now, if I had to guess. That's the third rounder, Jacob Parrish, from K-State. It could be him. It could be Izzian as like a stopgap, somebody they know they trust there. And then your outside corners, week one, are probably Dean and McCullum right now.
Right.
But Benjamin Morrison's going to push both of those guys. We haven't really seen Bowles rotate corners. In general, it's like, here are the two corners. You're out there for the game. But I really think you could see more of a rotation where it's like, after 3 series, Morrison comes in for a series and spells either one of them to give him different looks, to give him some reps. So if somebody goes down, he's not coming in cold. I don't think they have to have that. These are our 5 guys. This is the look we will have in every situation. They can move guys around. I do think you'll see some dime at some point in that there's some versatile pieces they can move around and do a lot of stuff with. It's like Bowles. Sometimes I think Bowles will drop names just to really make you think there's more in play than there is.
Right.
But like Bowles was running through the options at nickel, and he mentioned McCullum as an option at nickel. And it's like, wow, like they would feel really good about, Morrison, Parrish, McCullum, or Dean, I would say.
Yeah.
That's enough that you take McCullum and move him back inside when I think he's basically had 1 game as a nickel in his career. But again, I think they like the idea of overdrafting and now having 2 more viable starters in Morrison and Parrish as rookies that can come in, push the vets that we're presuming are the returning starters. They want competition there. They want to light a fire under people, whether it's McCullum in a contract year or Dean as a guy whose guaranteed money is gone, who knows if he doesn't play at a high level, he's probably not back after this year. So I think there's lots of motivation, and that's an area where they can be a lot better. I mean, they had 7 interceptions as a team in all of last season, just a crazy low number. You want that to be at like 18, 20, big high number takeaways, and it hasn't been. So I think they'll be much improved there without necessarily knowing which guys are where in the ultimate how things shake out in that secondary.
That's why I'm very high on this team going into the season, because I feel like they were able to win the division last year and they still had so much more room to grow defensively, and they threw so many assets on it. And now you're talking about, a second round pick that probably isn't going to start week 1, right? I mean, as much as I don't want to say questioning, but you're wondering, Emeka Ibuka, you draft him, and if everybody's healthy, if Godwin's ready for week 1, he's wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 4, right? So you ideally your first 2 draft picks, hell, maybe not any of your draft picks will be starting week 1. And I think in certain teams that's a bad thing because it means that they didn't beat out the incumbents. But I think for the Bucs that could be a good thing, Greg. Like they could learn, the more time that Emeka spends with Baker and learns from Mike and Chris, there's no way that there's a bad thing from that, especially because you look at Emeka kind of as the, he looks like Chris, the same thing with Chris Godwin. You were there. The same things that they're saying about Emeka now, we heard about Chris Godwin. He's so mature. He's a leader, blah, blah, blah. And if he doesn't play, it's not because he's not doing the job. It's because those guys are healthy above him, and they're going to get the first crack at it. Same thing with Benjamin Morrison. I don't know if we could say the same thing at the running back position. Now Rachaad White putting out his story. This is his last go. I am of the belief that I am not trading Rachaad White. I am not trying to get rid of Rachaad White because Bucky had 3 separate injuries last year. He's yet to prove that he can stay healthy over a 17-game season. I love Rachaad, what he can do on the third down and picking up the blitzes and stuff like that. Rachaad may say that, and he may want to be an RB1 somewhere, but I wouldn't be so quick to get rid of Rachaad White. What say you?
No, I think it's smart for them to have an insurance policy, to have insulation against injury, which is what he does for you. It's not expensive at all. I think a year from now, when Rachaad's a free agent, it makes sense that another team might pay him more than the Bucks would, because the Bucks,
Right.
I mean, if Bucky is this year who Bucky was last year, he's going to get, 2/3, 3/4 of the snaps, where Rashad will be a complimentary back. He'll be a pass catching back. And there's a value in that. I don't think it's smart. If you trade him, you're going to get a late round pick for him.
What do you get?
Anything substantial. And again, they have to guard against the idea that if Bucky gets hurt, I mean, like, Sean Tucker's a guy we like a lot, had that big game, 192 yards, player of the week, but they really didn't use him much after that.
Right.
And I think if they trusted him at the same level they trusted Bucky and they trusted Rashad, he'd be in there with 400, 500 rushing yards. So I think he's a guy that's still developing and still earning the trust of his coaches. And I think he'll continue to do that. But I don't know that he's so solidly there that you'd let Rashad go somewhere else and have yourself one injury away from Sean Tucker being your every down back. That's not just running the ball. That's catching the ball, pass protection. That's all the things they ask the backs to do. So, yeah, it's for Rashad. I don't know that he needed to say that, I guess. But, yeah, then there's a chance. If you look at who he is and what they've done to improve things around him, if you look at running backs in the last 3 years and guys with like 150-plus carries, Rashad's pretty much the last in the league in terms of yards per carry. And some of that is a function of them not having a very good run game, 22, 23, regardless of who was running the ball. But the production that he had was largely volume production. Again, good all-around back, good pass-catching back, good pass protection back, but not really a prolific runner. And that's, again, it's hard to make a case that he's better than Bucky when you saw the upside of what Bucky had in the second half of last year and how much he elevated the offense to give it a balance that it really hasn't had. So I think they lean on Rashad. They're going to need Rashad this year. They're very consistent in saying that. They want to make sure Rashad feels important here, but not like a starter, you're the main guy important.
Yeah.
And if he thinks he can be that somewhere else, that's great for him, and he might get a better shot at it somewhere else than he'd have here in Tampa with Bucky on a rookie contract for 2 more years after this year.
Yeah, no doubt. Greg, before I let you go, what's the one thing that gives you pause about this Buccaneers team? Because like I said, I'm pretty high on them this year. I just think there's a lot of good, and whether it's the offense, the defense, maybe Grizzard, but I have faith that Todd Bowles Todd Bowles to me is getting better as a coach, right? He's delegating more. And I think that's the sign of a really good coach. We see that over the years in all of the sports. Even these guys that have been around the league, they played in the league, they've coached in the league, they're still making the adaptations to their coaching style to help their team be more successful. If there's one thing that gives you pause about the Bucs, at this point, obviously so early, it's still May, but if there's one thing, what is it?
Yeah, there's not much, honestly, in terms of glaring question marks. I think they bring so much back. It's a little like 21 when they came back off the Super Bowl, because they really brought just about everybody back. I think it's like 87% of their starters are back from last year, which is a really high number. So for me, the two things you mentioned, Grizzard, and I think there's been nothing but praise for Grizzard since he got the job, but just this is the third time they've rolled the dice with a first-time coordinator,
right?
And they get progressively younger. It's one of those where Canales was like 41. It's like, wow, that's young. And then Cohen comes in, he's like 39. Grizzard's 34. And again, it's one of those where I think it helps them to have the continuity of promoting from within. He's a smart guy, man. You got a Yale grad who spent 4 years at Duke as a coach, really knows what he's doing. It's just the fact that he hasn't done it before. That's the only hesitation I have, is being the guy running the offense, having the autonomy that Todd gives his OC. You have to be ready for that. And it's one of those where until you've done it, that's a question mark. But I think he'll be able to answer that. I think it used to be that Todd had all the same assistants and wasn't going outside his circle of familiarity. And his credit, this is 3 guys he had almost no ties with that he's found, brought in, gotten to work well enough, quick enough. They're head coaches. And now Grizzard. And again, I think to talk to players, they light up talking about Josh. So I think, again, the only reason it's a question mark is that he hasn't done it before.
Yeah, we've officially reached the point where I am older than the Buccaneers offensive coordinator.
Right? So I had it for a while where it was like, it'll be wild when I'm older than everyone in the locker room, right? And like, I think Ryan Lindell was the last guy I covered that was older than me when he was a kicker, and that's like 8 years ago.
Wow.
I got like 2 years on Brady. Brady, I think, is like a 77 birthday. Yeah, I'll never cover a player of my age again.
You never know.
There's probably half the head coaches in the league are now younger than me. So it's like, it always kills me because you'll write about somebody like, oh man, he's 33. He's so wise. He's just been around for so long. And then you realize, like, you know, a lot more. I wasn't that wise at 33. What am I talking about?
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. What do you got up on Fox Sports right now? The latest article that you wrote?
Nothing too much. Honestly, a little bit non-Buck stuff. It's like we took, I'm not sure when these will come up, but we took 10 teams and we're writing like season predictions, game by game predictions for how it'll shake out. I landed the Packers and Vikings on there. NFC North, a little tough to figure out in terms of where everybody fits in. So just laid out the entire season for the Packers and Vikings and what they win and what they lose. I think that'll be a division that has 3 playoff teams again, like it did last year. But no, it's one of those where that's a division that did extremely well in the regular season, and then all 3 playoff teams lost their first game. So hard to know how the Bears fit into that, how much they step up. If the Lions take a step back, losing 2 coordinators.
Did you see their road schedule?
Yeah, man, crazy.
Oh my God! I saw something online, and they were like, "I think Detroit misses the playoffs." I'm like, "What?" And I've been asking that question to anybody that'll listen. Like, hey, man, you lose both coordinators, and we saw it with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Sirianni loses Steichen, he loses Gannon, and they just couldn't find. It's not so easy. The Bucs make it look easy, but you know, you lose a little bit of your identity, right? And then you look at their road games where they're going to Baltimore, going to Kansas City, and going to LA. It's just like, holy, going to Cincinnati. I'm like, good. I think they go to Philly and Washington. It's like, oh man. So listen, this is Dan Campbell's gonna earn all of his pay for this season.
Well, and honestly, I mean, the coordinators he filled to replace those jobs aren't like wow types. Okay, right. John Morton's not a guy like, oh wow, they got John Morton. I mean, their defense is a promote from within type thing. So the one thing I'll say about Detroit is that they had a ridiculous amount of injuries in the defense last year that I think really undercut them in terms of who they could be in the postseason, who they were at the end of last year. If they're healthy, that can help offset losing 2 really good coordinators in Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You have Hutchinson on one side, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Gibbs and all those guys on the other side. Nobody's going to count them out, that's for sure. And even if they do get a word, all right, they don't win 15 games, they win 13, 12 games, they're still going to be a playoff team. Greg Auman, Fox Sports. Follow him on all social media platforms at Greg Auman. Greg, always appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks. Have a great rest of your week.
Good to see you, man. Thanks again.
You got it, pal. The one and only Greg Auman, man. What a great chat that we had there. Yeah, you talk about intriguing teams. The Detroit Lions are certainly one of them. Chicago Bears, another one like that. NFC North, you think you have a gauge. You think you have a kind of your finger on the pulse of what's going to happen. You just don't know, man, because you don't know what the injuries entail too, right? You don't know. Oh, man, check this out. So apparently an email was sent from an individual with the corporate sales department that said that next year is going to be Alexander Ovechkin's final year. And then the Capitals PR just put out 10 minutes ago, no decision has been made on Alex Ovechkin's future. That is what happens when you have people in sales that have no idea what's going on. You have somebody in sales putting out an email saying that this upcoming season is going to be Alexander Ovechkin's last. The Capitals hear all of this. People start tweeting about it all over the world. Ovi's going to retire after this year. Ovi's going to retire after this year. And then the PR puts out, nah, no decision has been made. I mean, it could be when all is said and done, but my God, that's pretty jacked up, man. I mean, that's the best goal scorer of all time. And then people are like, oh my, I know I was thinking about it like, damn, 1 year. Is he going to be one of those guys that is going to have a farewell tour like we saw with some of the other greats? Like we saw that with Mariano Rivera. I'll always remember, I think it was like the Tigers that gave him like a rocking chair made of all the broken bats that he broke over the years. Ovi deserves a send off like that. I'm cool with that. I don't necessarily hate that kind of thing. If you're an all-time great, if you're just some kind of normal rando, if you're just an organizational great, I don't know about that. If you're a legend of the game, if you're one of the best to ever do it, if you're an Ovechkin, if you're a Crosby, if you're a McDavid, if you're a Mariano Rivera, I got Derek Jeter. Like, I got no problem with that. You're an all-time great. People showering you with adulation and love. Like, that's what it should be all about. Like, we're so focused on the negative and the BS and tearing down athletes. Like, there should be times where we prop them up too and do their thing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Alexander Ovechkin and his future. But all eyes tonight, maybe not all eyes, but definitely my eyes and this guy's eyes will be locked into the Knicks and Pacers Game 5 from Madison Square Garden. We bring in Aaron Jacobson, one half of the Pat and Aaron Show on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's up, Jay? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I love your hat.
Thank you. Just got these. Thank you, man. Yeah. I don't know about you. I'm very down and out right now.
Yeah, down and out. You're not feeling great. I am of the rare, if the Knicks win tonight, all the pressure's on Indiana going and back into Game 6. I do think, and you know, I think Tibbs found something the last couple of games in going to Landry Shamet and going to Darrell Wright. Darrell Wright?
Is it Darnell?
No, it's Darrell.
Darrell Wright.
No, why can't I? Bro,
he's been in the league for 10 years.
He's one of my brother's favorite players, right? And that's Darrell Wright. Okay, why am I?
Darrell Wright. He's been in the league for 10 years.
DeLon Wright.
Yeah.
Darrell's his brother.
Dude, but that goes to show you, like, Thibodeau went deep into the well of, like, he barely played.
I know, and he can shoot. That's the thing, is like he can play. It's DeLon Wright. Okay, his brother Darrell. I'm getting jacked up here. All right, so
DeLon's been in the league. I'm not wrong. He's been in the league for like 10 years, right?
Yeah, he's been around. He's like, again, he's one of my brother's favorite players. He's one of those like under the radar guys. Yeah, he was with the Raptors in 2015. You know, a bunch of shooters. Like he can play. He can play. So the fact that Tibbs went to him and Landry Shamet, everybody was crushing him for going to both of them at the same time in Game 3. But then when he did it in Game 4, they tied the game. So, I mean, I think that there's a way. My whole issue is he doesn't understand how to use them in the rotation. It's almost like, oh, shit, you know, break glass in case of emergency, now throw these guys out there. Hopefully these last couple of days, Tibbs has been, all right, we're going to play our guys here. We're going to put these guys in here and kind of work that whole thing out. But still, I'm with you, man. They got to start well, and they got to make sure they play a full 48 minutes because we know what Indiana can do.
I've tried to, in my head, create like, okay, what's the best matchups as well? Like, obviously, Thibodeau knows more about the game than we do.
Right.
So he's a little stubborn in regards of he won't go deep into the well. He finally backed off that, and you need to, because the guys are so tired and banged up at this point. It's kind of what happened to them last year. Last year it was much worse, where they just were beat up. Karl Anthony Towns, you know, he's going to be hurt tonight going into this game. But you have to look at this team and think, how do you match up with the depth of the Pacers and the speed and the size? And I just don't know if they can do it, because unfortunately for the Knicks, they went out and got a guy like Mikal Bridges, who has shown that he can defend at times, but his offense isn't consistent. Yeah. And he can't hit a three consistently. And you just can't have that anymore. At this point in the NBA, where it's at, where the game is at, you got to flow. You got to be able to – it can't just be Jalen Brunson in there creating that offense. You got to be able to work and help him out. And, you know, Mitch Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns, you try to put them on the floor at the same time. It can be good, but two big guys like that, you got a coach in Rick Carlisle who's been doing this for a long time, who's really smart as well. And he clearly has told those guys, when Mitch Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns are both in there, the second the Knicks score a bucket, I want that ball down the court. I want those big men on the run. And he's done a really good job, and the team's done a really good job at being able to kind of keep the Knicks at bay like that.
Yeah, and I look at it too. Mitch Robinson always wants to leak back into the paint, and sometimes he's getting away from those three-point shooters, and then they make the Knicks pay, because everybody that's out there for Indiana can shoot the three. I feel like they've made so many freaking shots. Like they've been unbelievable offensively. And I look at a guy like Tyrese Halliburton. He is the modern-day Reggie Miller. He really is. Like, he's got that bravado, and I think that kids that are, you know, teenagers now are looking at Tyrese Halliburton the way that I was looking at Reggie Miller, you know, and just, you know, doing the choke signal in Game 1. And
is he a superstar?
I I would say yes. I know a lot of people around the league are hating on him. The thing is with Halliburton is that he's got a very funky game, right? So there's times when he takes shots and he misses. Like he has maybe the worst misses out of superstars in the game. Because sometimes he'll have these shots where he'll hit the side of the rim, and it'll just make that clunk noise. And you're like,
not a natural. His form is not a natural form.
It's not. But man, he makes open shots. He's incredible in transition. He's got great court vision. And he does make heroic plays. He does make plays at the end of shot clocks and at the end of games. He's clutch, man. And people hating on him because probably his personality a little bit, but also because he does have a little bit of an unorthodox look to him. But I mean, he does have games. This is the thing with Halliburton. We've seen it. Sometimes he has a clunker. He has a clunker of a game. And you go back to Mikal Bridges, you mentioned it before. Mikal has the ability to be really inconsistent, but come up with huge plays, whether it's offensively or defensively. I think that the Knicks are going to have to ride that home wave tonight because it's going to be rocking. The building's going to be rocking. What did you make of Pat McAfee talking smack to those guys that were at the game? Like he was calling them sons of bitches.
Hilarious. I mean, it's funny. It's hey, listen, if you're going to bring Celebrity Row into their town, call it out, have fun with it, try to it's home court advantage. So do what you can. If Knicks fans and the big ones are going to do what they can to get on the road and try to get the advantage in their favor, do what you can to counter it. I'm told that's fair game in sports. All is fair and love in sports. So I love it. But the series is, as a Knicks fan, as you know, very frustrating. It kind of feels like we're at the old Yeller stage. Just take us in the back.
Are we at the old Yeller stage? Yeah. Just don't give him I just don't want to see a trophy presentation on the floor at Madison Square Garden tonight. Like, do you agree though? If they win, so how are you going to feel if the Knicks win tonight? How much more optimistic are you going to be? Is it still going to be like delaying the inevitable?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah. I mean, ball. You understand.
Yeah.
This Pacers team, first of all, they're not hurt. I think if Nesmith, when he got hurt in game 3 and came back, if he comes back and the Knicks still win, which they did, if he doesn't play in game 4, even though Mathurin played really good and stepped up, I think that the Knicks have the advantage. Because Nesmith has been a game changer in the series. Take the offense out of it, even though he won game 1 on his own, essentially, in the fourth quarter. But his defense against Brunson has been the best I've seen anybody defend him in the game.
No doubt.
Able to do that. So that's the X factor. Like when Brunson is in there against Shepard or anybody else, he's complete domination. But when you put Nesmith on him, the size, the strength, the ability to fight over picks and through picks, he's really good at it. So that's been the changer for me. And I don't see them coming out of this because Indiana's too deep and they're healthy. So I just don't see this turning around.
Are you and I want to show you this real quick because I came back to the Pedingos last night. And if you make the final out of the inning, you have to wear a tutu.
Who was I talking to that does this?
Yeah. Was it Nick in Sarasota?
It might have. I think it was.
Yeah, they're like, hey, if you make the last out of the inning, you got to wear a tutu out in the field. I'm like, what the And of course, I made the last out of the inning. I'm like, God dang it.
It was either, Nick in Sarasota or I can't believe I don't remember because this was the other day. My memory's so bad.
It's all right. You'll remember it eventually and text me. All right, what do you think of the job of Tom Thibodeau? How are you one of those people that think if they don't win that they should get rid of him, they should find a new coach? Do you think he's been severely outmatched in this series against Rick Carlisle?
Yeah, he's been outmatched, but who are you going to replace him with?
Yeah.
This isn't Mark Jackson getting replaced by Steve Kerr. This is Thibodeau's got so much experience. He defensively, you can see the makings of him in this team. The problem is when it comes down to it in big moments and big series, he plays, and he says it, he plays game by game. He doesn't play for the series. He plays game by game. It's like, well, dude, you got to look at it as an entire series. Mm-hmm. And you have to think of what's going to happen down the line. How you got to make it's a match, a long boxing match, and there's a lot of rounds to it. And I think he waited a little too long to adjust. And I still think now he's tinkering, trying to figure it out. And it's kind of not fair to the players like Wright, who we haven't seen. You're just throwing him on the court. And Shaman, who's got all this experience, but he's sitting on the bench as well. That guy's got a ton of experience. So it's puzzling, but not enough for me to go, all right, there's somebody better that we can put as coach of this team that's going to do a better job.
Yeah, I think you go forward and, even if they aren't able to kind of make the comeback, and we've seen 3-1 comebacks before, but I think going into next season, knowing that the majority of your team is coming back, I would have liked to see a little bit more Precious Achiuwa, right? Like you got to use these guys, throw them in there. Even like we saw back in the 90s, like guys using fouls against Shaq. Like there's got to be a way that you can steal a couple of minutes from Karl Anthony Towns to get Precious Achiuwa in there, right? Like there's got to be some different way, and hopefully this is the one thing that Tibbs can look at and adjust and go forward. And if you could watch a Knicks game with one of the celebrities that's been on Celebrity Row, who would it be?
That's a really good question.
And it wouldn't be Tracy Morgan throwing up on himself. Hopefully.
No, it wouldn't be Morgan. It wouldn't be Spike Lee. That feels like an annoying little area.
Right.
I feel like Ben Stiller, there could be some funniness and some good energy there.
Chalamet? No Chalamet?
Timothy Chalamet, just because, like, not that I'm going to ever be able to get with one of the Jenners, but, like, Kendall's got a boyfriend too, right? I don't know.
She's never met Aaron Jacobson, though.
They're both stunning.
It's amazing. Chalamet had one of the biggest wins of the postseason when people saying, like, you're not even a Knicks fan. And this dude had a picture of him with Landry Fields. So I was like, bro, that's like the biggest win that you've ever seen. Is him getting an autograph.
Knicks fan. He's got him as a kid getting autographs from Amari Stoudemire. He's absolutely a massive Knicks fan. Not only that, he turned Kylie and Kendall from Lakers fans into Knicks fans. This guy is, I don't know, Chalamet is a genius.
Would you go watch a game with a former Knick or a celebrity? That's a good one because there's a lot of former Knicks. That's what I'm saying. Like, who are the former Pacers at this game other than Reggie? I would love to go watch a game with like Clyde. Sit between Clyde and Patrick Ewing. That'd be pretty.
Clyde
cool.
would be great. Oakley would be great
if they let him back in the building.
If they let him back in, but even just at a bar, like if you just watch. Starks. I feel like Ewing would be quiet.
He's been going to the road games too. That's what I love. Like these guys are going on the road games too. What have you thought of Reggie Miller's commentary? Because it's driving me up a wall. I think Stan Van Gundy acts like we fired him. I just like the comment, everything that Aaron Nesmith. I mean, does Aaron Nesmith know how to fight over screens? My God, they talk about it every freaking game. Everything Indiana does is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're playing fantastic. Don't get me wrong. And then Reggie throws out this, look at Mitchell Robinson. I'm like, come on, bro. Like you're saying that. Like it's just, it's so disingenuous. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, Reggie's driving me crazy. Not so much Stan Van Gundy. Like even Stan at the end of the game the other day when they called the foul on Mikal Bridges, he's like, "You're gonna call that?" In
those last two fouls were terrible.
Yeah, so I'm fine with Stan, but the Reggie thing is driving me nuts. Like I get it. He's the guy, and it just happens to be the matchup. But I mean, I knew it in game one when the picture comes out of Halliburton doing this, and Reggie's like, oh come on, what are you doing? This is brutal. And by the way, anyone who says that, I have to say this. Anyone who says that the league or any leagues are rigged, stop it. If the league was rigged, they would be calling things in favor so the Knicks would win this series and New York would be in the final. Because the worst thing for the league right now is the thought of Indiana against OKC for ratings. That is not going to be a ratings driver. So for anyone who thinks that leagues are rigged, stop it. Go look at this series. Because not saying they've been the calls to me as a Knicks fan, like I'm biased. I don't think
they have. I don't think I've had non-Knicks fans tell me like the officiating has been brutal. Like OG on that one dunk at the late in the game got slammed in the back of the head, and you're like, Jesus, man! Like all the ticky tack fouls. They called the ticky tack foul on Bridges, and he's like looking around, and Mikal's not that. It's very, very strange how.
So it's not rigged.
It's been officiated. Not rigged, but if they come back and win from 3-1, that's what everybody's gonna say. I'll take it then. Maybe I will put up with people saying it's rigged if they come back and win. What have you thought of the Rays, man? They've really played well, winning 7 of 8 there. Drew Rasmussen with a great performance. I feel like they're starting to play well. I kind of called out Yandy Diaz a little bit earlier on the show. I think he's been futile, under 200 the last 15 games or so. But overall, what do you think of the guys?
Pitching, defense, that's what it's built on. Drew Rasmussen now, one hit he gives up yesterday. That's 4 starts in a row where he's given up 4 hits or less in his outings. He's going 6. He's going deep in games for this Rays staff. But I mean, look, Jonathan Aranda's been great all season long, and it wasn't clicking for the team. What's been clicking? Brandon Lau's gotten hot.
Yep.
Junior Camanero's hitting the long ball. Josh Lowe's back and performing for this team. Chandler Simpson's been electric. So, and listen, Jose Caballero, like, I get it. The Taylor Walls, until we get his son Kim back, he's going to play a lot of shortstop, but he's great defensively. We all know that. We don't have to talk about him. But when Jose is at short, I mean, his ability to, when he gets on base and he can steal bags, and he's electric as well. So I like this team. Like, I get it. They're a 500 baseball team, 1 game above 500, but they look like a 500 baseball team. But I'm optimistic that you have one of the best managers in the league in Kevin Cash, proven. Pitching defense isn't going anywhere. Pitching's only going to improve. Even if they don't get McClanahan back for a while, he's throwing now. But even if let's say he doesn't come back or gets hurt, like, they've got enough where they can sustain. It's all going to be about, are they going to be able to consistently hit the ball and drive runs in? That's what it's always been about with this team, and that's what it's about this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm excited to see how they fare against the rest of the teams in the division, because I think we know what the Yankees are all about, and a big series for them coming up against the Dodgers this weekend. That'll be must see, but I'm just not blown away by everybody else. Like, the Blue Jays and the Orioles are terrible. The Red Sox are on a 5-game losing streak. Like, so it's just like the Rays, I think, even just being kind of the best of the rest, that may help them the rest of the season. Speaking of baseball, what have your thoughts been early on Juan Soto and his tenure with the Mets? It's such a obviously long contract ahead. He's still in his mid-20s, but I know there are some people that are not thrilled with his, quote unquote lack of hustle, how he performed against the Yankees. Anybody in the Jacobson household freaking out about Juan Soto?
No, because first of all, there's no salary cap in baseball, so it doesn't. Whatever happens. Steve Cohen will be able to figure it out. But Juan Soto is too good of a baseball player. Like, he'll figure this out. Do I think he's going to be the guy that mashes a ton of home runs like he did for the Yankees? No. Like, we know the dimensions of Yankee Stadium. That's going to help you out, especially for a left-handed batter. But is he a guy that I expect to start, getting base hits and doubles and driving the ball in the gap? And the hustle is, I think it's a little overblown. Would I like to see him hustle a little more? Sure. Do I need him to, I like balls that are obvious or look obvious at first? Like, the guy makes a ton of money. All right. We need him healthy. Fact of the matter is, he's a gamer. He loves baseball, and he's really good at baseball. He's played in New York, so he understands the media and the pressure. He'll figure it out. He's a professional hitter. He's one of the best. So he will figure this thing out. His fielding has never been great anyway. Mm-hmm. The Mets are good, and they're playing well without him doing well. So as long as the Mets are performing, he'll be able to figure it out. You know who else had a horrible start to their career with the Mets? Was Francisco Lindor. The fans hated him. And now he's a guy who's in the MVP conversation every year, and he's one of the most beloved guys in New York. So I see that kind of turning around for Soto, and pretty quickly too.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. It's such a long contract. As bad as he does in the regular season, if he does bad, if they get anywhere near the postseason, that's the kind of guy you want up there. You take such intelligent at-bats. How optimistic are you about the Bucks going into the season? Obviously, we know voluntary OTAs going on right now. I am looking at it as a guy that didn't grow up as a Buccaneer fan. Like, I just look at this roster, man, and there's a lot of talent, a lot of offense coming back. What are your thoughts on this team going into the 25 season?
Yeah, I like it. There's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of young guys, a young team, a lot of returning talent, a lot of new talent brought in from the draft. Hassan Reddick, we know the storyline didn't show up the first day of OTAs. Let's hope it's a big year for him. And from everything we heard in the offseason, it seems like he's going to be ready to go and hungry. So I'm not too worried there. But the team overall, consistency on the offensive line, addition to the receiver room. So if Chris Godwin isn't right early in the season, Emeka Egbuka can step up there, and Jalen McMillan got better as the year went on. Mike Evans, we know what he can do. Bucky Irving's going to only be better. This defense, I expect Antoine Winfield Jr. to be fully healthy this year and ready to go. Vita Vea, we know the story. We know these guys. Yaya Diaby, getting after the quarterback, I think they'll be much better at this year. So I have high expectations, and the biggest thing going for them is they're in probably the weakest division in football still.
Who gets on the grass first, Chris Godwin or Shane McClanahan? That's a good question.
That is, I want to ask you, like, what do you think's going on with Shane? Because I know he's throwing now 90 feet, but at the beginning of the season, we heard that it was the triceps, the nerves, wasn't too much to be concerned about. Let's see where it goes. And now we're talking about him coming back in July.
Yeah, my thing is that when you have any kind of, and I was talking to somebody about this last night, when you have any kind of non-traditional throwing injury, when it's not like torn UCL, labrum, blah, 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 you're always going to get the teams going to go far on the other end of we have to wait, because you just don't know. Like nerve damage like this is just really, really funky, because it's not like you always hear this, like, it's always easier to assess a broken bone than a muscle strain, right? Because at least you know the broken bone, like it's broken, it's going to get fixed, boom. This is kind of a similar thing here, where I think they were optimistic, but they were also in that wait and see approach. I think the message that they conveyed was a lot more positive and optimistic than they probably should have. And I think that kind of threw everybody for a loop a little bit when right off the bat. And I think they did that because he was just coming off of the injury, right? I think it would have been a little bit different when he was healthy. He's had some good seasons, and then he does that. But since he came off injury, everybody had these high expectations of him being the starter, opening day, all these different things. I think once this happened, they were cautious before they wanted to sound optimistic. And I'm concerned. I am concerned. Like, as much as anybody wants to say, like, now he's throwing at 90 feet or he'll be okay. Listen, before he even toes the rubber for the Tampa Bay Rays, he's only throwing from 90 feet. He's not pitching. He's just throwing from 90 feet. So then he's got to work himself up. So he's got to go through simulated spring training. He's got to go down for rehab starts. Like, he's not just going to, he's throwing from 90 feet. In 2 weeks, we're going to see him in the rotation. So, I mean, if anything, it's almost like, I think it's going to be like a late season pickup. It's going to be like, it's going to be a guy. There's no reason to rush him. And again, you're not going to bring him back before the All-Star break, right? So you're going to have that time. Why would you, right? So you have him. Take your time, take the next month or so, get into late July, early August, and then see if he can be a guy. Because the problem is, Aaron, I don't know if you're going to be able to build him back up to be a guy that is going to be a starter, right? Is he going to be a guy that you're going to build up and be able to throw 7-8 innings? I don't know, because his innings were going to be limited anyway coming off of the Tommy John surgery. So maybe he's a guy that is I always go back to Andrew Miller years ago and how the teams would use him in the 4th inning or the 7th inning. I mean, that's a pretty good ace in the hole to have. Yeah. But still, you were hoping that, because when he's at his best, I mean, you're talking about one of the best pitchers in baseball. You're putting him up there. Just
getting starting All-Star game would be great. If anything, just put him as an opener for Taj Bradley, so we don't have to deal with Taj in the 1st inning.
He doesn't love that at all. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, what's it been like for you hosting with a baby-faced Pat Donovan?
I was horrified. I felt bad. He lost the bet. What
was the bet? I don't think anybody saw the bet. Everybody just saw that he was going to shave his face, but I kept looking, and there was a couple of people like, what was the bet he lost? I'm like, I have no idea what the bet was.
It was such a dumb bet. We were just on the air talking, and he was speaking really fast, where he was talking about Lamar Jackson, and he was like going through the accolades, and he's like 2-time Super Bowl MVP. And then I was like, what do you mean 2-time regular season MVP? And he's like, that's what I said. I was like, oh, no, you didn't. He's like, what did I say? I was like, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. And he said, no, I didn't.
Oh,
I promise you did. And then we made the bet. And if I was wrong, I would have shaved my head, which I knew I wasn't wrong. I heard what I heard. So then we played it back for him over and over again. And his wife is mad at me because she's by him. Yeah. Nobody's seen his face like he's a new man. We haven't seen him like this in 25 years. So I've since I've known him for 15.
I know. He's got like the close stubble, the close gray stubble there.
I know.
He's on his way back. He's not going back to the baby face. He's not keeping it low, right?
Never again. No. It's if I do a bet, I know where to the well to go to.
That's amazing, man. Let everybody know what else you got going on, man. The show and everything on social media.
Pat and Aaron show. Check us out at Jacobson on air. Check out the Pat and Aaron show, 6 to 9 DAE. We have some fun. If you're not familiar with us, there you go.
Hattaboy, right? Is it called Hattaboy?
Hattaboy. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Shout out Hattaboy. They hooked us up. These are really cool.
Sharp.
What else is that? That's it. I think
where are you watching the game tonight?
At home. It's sad, naked, alone. Take me in the back. Just do the thing that you do to me. And
I was last Wednesday, and I know you're not a soccer guy, but Manchester United lost 1-0 at 3:00 in the afternoon, and then the Knicks lost game 1. And bro, I went home and I was just like staring into the space, like I'm gonna put on CNN right now. I think I need to get into politics.
They lost to Tottenham.
Yeah, it's terrible. And Ian was giving me grief, and bro, I was in such a bad way. I was in the fetal position. I was like despondent. 31 minutes, I couldn't even move. I'm just like, I really start questioning my motives in life when the Knicks.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
I don't know, man. I don't know. People are like, man, you shouldn't be a fan. And I don't know if it's like this for you, but it is for me. The Knicks are totally different. Right? Because it's like, I want the other teams to win that I grew up watching but there's just something about the Knicks. Like I've never seen them win. And all I've heard from my dad is like, oh, it was so great when they won twice in the early 70s and all these great teams. And you had the teams in the 90s and they just they sucked for so bad. The Isaiah years and the Eddie Currys and oh my God, the team sucked. So now that they're really good, and they lose it's one thing if they lose, but in the fashion that they lose last year with the injuries, and then this year losing game 1, I want to punch a hole in the wall, or I want to go in the field.
I feel bad for my neighbors. I'm so loud at night. I'm yelling. I'm like this, F that. I'm by myself. It's sad. It's pretty.
Yeah, you got that right, buddy. All right, I'll text you later on tonight. Hopefully it's good news, but if you don't hear from me, we're probably both curled up in the fetal position somewhere. Very unhappy. Thank you so much for your time, buddy. Continued success. Give Pat my love. We'll talk soon, buddy.
You too, brother. Love you. Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Love you too, man. Thank you. The one and only Aaron Jacobson. Check him out, Pat and Aaron, every single weekday, 6 to 9 on WDAE. It's going to be a game tonight. All right, before I go, I wanted to mention this. I brought this up a little while ago with Greg Auman. I think the NFL is like royally screwing their players having something called voluntary OTAs. Like, I don't quite understand why you would have something like this. And I know that, when Greg brought it up, it was, bargained for in the CBA. And this is something that the players, work. They need to get rid of this thing. Get rid of it. Either make it mandatory or just don't have it at all. I don't quite understand why you need, especially like the Bucks. Why is it imperative for you to be able to be outside when it's balls hot on May 29th? It makes no sense. Give these guys time off. Get them away from the facility. Get them to be able to decompress. The NFL stands for not for long anyway. And you have something called voluntary OTAs, right? So now you have a situation where you're putting your veterans in a spot where some just don't care. It doesn't matter to them. But then there's others. Now it could hurt them. They're not a team first player, even though they've been in the league for so long. They're not practicing with their teams. So now people could look at it in the negative light. They're getting butchered in the media. And people say, oh, it's not a big, it could be a big deal because other teams, let's say a guy plays for a team 1 year, Hassan Reddick doesn't go to voluntary OTAs. And now next year, a team that maybe would have given him a contract goes, yeah, but he didn't show up we're questioning him. We're questioning his commitment because of what happened with the Jets, because of what happened with the Bucks. See, it happened with two teams. If it's a standalone incident for the Jets, like how the Bucks are viewing it, they're just like, it's a one-time thing, no big deal. The league is setting themselves up for failure. Now you have an opportunity where you look at a guy like Stephon Diggs partying on a boat, well within his right? Because it's voluntary OTAs, but it's your first year in a new system with a second-year quarterback and a brand new head coach. You probably want as many reps as possible, or as many just meetings as possible to put yourself in a position to succeed, right? We shouldn't even be having these conversations. The league is doing themselves a disservice by doing this. Now, you could look at the other aspect of it. Well, maybe it keeps the sport in conversation, right? Even outside of the season, which I can see that aspect of it, but people are going to talk about the NFL anyway, right? I think it's lazy narrative. I think it's lazy when you're talking about college football or the NFL, when NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, everything, especially here in the Bay Area, but hey, to each their own. But I don't know if there's any positive that comes from it as far as a image standpoint, right? Just, it's not, the optics aren't great. And first name greatest. If Dig wants to do coke with hookers on a boat, let him. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, right. But why act like he has to miss OTAs for it, right? Just don't have them. David Terry, it's okay, Jay Bird. You can always come over to the dark side and root for the most successful football club, Liverpool. David, it'll be a cold day in hell before I ever walk with the Liverpudlian. Not a chance. All right, guys. That's going to wrap it up for me today on the program. A lot of fun. As always, Greg Auman joining us on the program from Fox Sports. Go check him out. Also, my guy, Aaron Jacobson, at Jacobson on Air. Go watch Pat and Aaron. Listen to Pat and Aaron every morning, 6 to 9 on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. Those guys do a great job over there. Follow me on all social media platforms, at Jay Recher. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Let's get them up as high as humanly possible. Again, tomorrow, 1 o'clock, joining us on the show, Jordan Yost from Sickles High. He's going to be going to Florida if he doesn't get drafted by the MLB. And, of course, we got some more irons in the fire. So you have to make sure you follow me on social media because the guests just kind of pop up out of nowhere when you least expect it. I love you all. Happy birthday once again. Let's just say it, everybody. We sang before, so we're not going to sing it again. But happy birthday to Janet Best. Birthday number 55. God bless you. And, again, thank you all for supporting. And we'll see you tomorrow at noon.